listen, it's that time of year to be a little bit vulnerable, to be a little bit scared, and to be a little bit open on the internet. And I'm going to confess to something that maybe you knew about me, maybe you didn't, but it feels like it's something that I regretfully neglected to talk about in the book world, and I'm ready to air out my dirty laundry. I've never physically read a Stephen King book. I've never physically owned a Stephen King book. Should I be banished to a remote island with nothing but a Stephen King book? Maybe that is the proper punishment. It's true. I've never experienced him in that way. I say physically because I have listened to a couple of his novellas on audiobook, but those were nothing like the meaty SK that everybody knows and loves. Lots of things have been convening together to tell me read a Stephen King book. So I decided to listen to myself. I decided to listen to my spirit. And so what does somebody do when they're given that question of fate? You ask people on the internet, and I asked you all, I asked my subscribers what book I should choose of Stephen King's, and you guys came through lots and lots of different suggestions, and I compiled all the information because math, lots of math. I'm not just good at reading. I love a graph. And there was one book that reigned supreme. So I had to buy it. And girl, I bought it. Mm-hmm. That book is... Turn out the lights. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I didn't want to get copywritten. But yeah, that's the book that I'm going to be reading. It's a big one. You guys, that's a big one. That's 800 plus pages. Am I ready for it? I'm not sure, but I'm going to be taking it with me everywhere I go, getting a bicep curl every time I pull it out of my bag. So that is what I'm going to be doing, and I cannot wait to do it. I'm ready to be experienced by the Stephen King, the Stephen Queen. Yeah. Oh, hold on, wait. Oh, yeah. 1 second. Hello, this is she. I love you. I love you. I love you. Sorry, that was a scam phone call. But the great thing about that is that I was able to show off my brand new Berga case for you to see and love and adore. Thank you to Berga for sponsoring today's video. Berga is a lifestyle brand that brings everyday accessories into that main character energy. I have been using their phone cases, which they have about 300 in-house designs. Every single case is made on demand, which produces no overproduction, and every one is slightly different than the next. They have so many different themes to their phones. You can choose a thriller, you can choose a horror, you can choose dark academia, you can choose Alice in Wonderland. They have it for you. I've been using it for a little while now, and what I find so standout is that you can feel how much infrastructure is added to your phone when you put on one of these cases. They have more of kind of the tough cases. They have a 2-piece hard shell and raised bezels similar to the Elite cases, and they also have shock absorption. And if you really want to get funny with it, you can also match your MacBook cases to your phone case, which I have done because I love to match it up a little bit, and it's something that I wish I did long ago. They do also have notebooks and planners, which I know you use because I use them as well. All of the planners have double vegan leather hard covers, thick paper for no ink bleeds, and they're portable and lightweight. The option for a dotted interior, a grid interior, and a lined interior. So depending on your passions, this notebook is for you. So if you would like to get yourself a Berga case for any of your accessories, be it a water bottle, be it a Kindle, be it your laptop, be it your phone, you can use my code ANNAX15 for 15% off site-wide, and that is in addition to their buy 2, get 2 free phone cases. Yeah, it's great. You can keep on swapping out if you're like me, somebody who's deciding that all of a sudden they want to read Stephen King out of the blue. Thank you so much to Berga for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get to the Stephen King. Oh, baby, listen to me, baby. Guys, I am crooked right now. Guys, I gotta be honest with you. The weather has been startlingly horrible lately. Absolutely horrible. You wouldn't even want to be here if you tried. New York City's so great, so wonderful, so fun. Disgusting out. Due to rain every single day this week, which usually I would scream, cry, stomp my feet, and curse the rain gods, but for this particular week, it's actually perfect because, do you see that? Do you see that? This has been about 3 days worth of reading. I'm consuming. I am feasting, I'm fully fed, and dare I even say full on 11/22/63. I also realized that I didn't properly talk about what this book is about, so I'm going to read the back, even though I'm fully invested in it. I feel like trying to summarize an 800-page book without like giving away spoilers. I mean, I'll talk about what I'm getting out of it so far, but I want to just do a cruise read of the back. It says, life can turn on a dime or stumble into the extraordinary as it does for Jake Epping, a divorced high school English teacher in small-town Maine. While grading essays by his GHD students, Jake reads about such a destined moment through a gruesome, enthralling piece penned by janitor Harry Dunning. 50 years later, Harry somehow survived his father's slaughter of the entire family. Jake is blown away, even as a more bizarre, life-altering secret comes to light when his friend Al, owner of the local diner, enlists Jake to take over the mission that has become his obsession to prevent the Kennedy assassination. How? By stepping through a mysterious portal in the diner's storeroom into the era of Ike and Elvis, of big American cars, sock hops, and cigarette smoke. Finding himself in warm-hearted Jody, Texas, Jake begins a new life, yet all turns on the treacherous road led straight to a troubled loner named Lee Harvey Oswald. The course of history is about to be rewritten in Stephen King's most ambitious and complicated NPR novel, where time travel has never been more believable or so terrifying. Yeah, so let me take you where I am so far in this book. This opens with Jake Epping. I've been calling him Jake Ebbing in my head. Kind of like this undistinguishable person in life, and he enters into this portal from Al's Diner, one of the local diners in the area that has suspiciously cheap meat. And people assume that it's because he's feeding everybody animals, stray animals, but there's a reason that the meat is so cheap, which you find out in the novel later on. But yeah, Jake enters into this portal that brings him into 1958 to a small town in Maine, and he's basically on this trajectory to rewrite history. What does that mean? If you save someone, what happens to somebody else? It's a really interesting take on kind of predicting future and, again, making choices, also redirecting the course of history, what happens with that. Basically, in the synopsis, I have just gotten to the point where the character has entered into Texas. There has been a lot of other side quests throughout this, as I feel like Stephen King's writing usually takes. There have been side quests and other missions that he has set for himself to kind of test and try if he would be able to rewrite history. Also, there is a little hole in this, a little caveat of what can happen when you enter into the portal. I don't think I'm going to spoil it by saying this, but basically once you leave the portal, you've set history. If you re-enter the portal, you have erased the history that you've already preset. So that is kind of the rules so far that are being established. There's also little dots of mystery. There's a certain person that he encounters when he first enters into the portal. It's a yellow card man. His color kind of keeps changing as he re-enters multiple times. So there's that you have to keep in mind. I am really fully invested into this book. I don't know why I ever doubted Stephen King as a writer. Like I said before, I have listened to a couple of his novellas. I listened to Later a couple of years ago, which was fine, but I felt like it had that Stephen King formula of build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, and then it's a monster, which is fine. I don't hate that, but there's something about this that I feel like is just Stephen King wanting to write a story, just really wanting to write a story. A lot of it mirrors a lot of his own life, being a writer, being based in Maine, and potentially just revealing that he's such a history buff. I'm definitely just going to be reading this the entire week. I also want to talk about some of the situations that have brought me to wanting to read Stephen King. There's a bug in here. I love that. Like I said before, I have listened to his audiobook I talked about later. I also just finished listening to Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, which is the novella that is the inspiration for the movie The Shawshank Redemption. I just rewatched that movie, and it's a pretty spot-on adaptation. There are a couple of things that were changed, but I rewatched that. It was fabulous. The audiobook was amazing, and it really made me inspired to want to pick up a Stephen King again. I also randomly was invited to an event by Mariner and Morrow, and there was a whole arrangement of authors talking about their new books, so many wonderful new books that I was able to take home, and there was an author by the name of Joe Hill, who I had never really spent a lot of time in that atmosphere of his genre of books, but I kept on looking at him and thinking, that guy looks so much like Stephen King. That's really crazy. Come to find out, that's his son. And in that moment that I figured that out, I said, wow, that is another sign that I need to pick up a Stephen King. And he was so kind. I got a bunch of the books from the authors, but look at that. That's crazy. I have his new book, which I'm honestly pretty excited to read, and he signed it. He was so nice, like just a really, really nice guy, and it puts such a, look at that. Look at how cool he signed it, and he did a little drawing in there. He was so attentive to everybody that was asking questions, and it really just put positive idea in my head of the King family. And so it just further made me want to pick up his book, and I'm so happy that I did. What a fantastic storyteller. I'm really enjoying my time in this world. I think I take a lot of time reading literary fiction, memoirs, nonfiction, classics, and I cherish those moments so much. But sometimes I just want to listen to a master storyteller, just tell a good story, introduce these characters, this world building of just character development and little, like ways that somebody smokes a cigarette, or the way that somebody walks into a room, or the food that somebody eats. It's such an attention to detail that King has, maybe to a fault sometimes, and maybe it's so long-winded, but I think he's executing it so well in this book. And I'm so excited to just be finished with it so that I can say that I've really read this book and enjoyed it and give you the full rundown. So literally all I'm going to be doing is reading. So I'm trying to make this as exciting as possible, guys. But literally all I'm going to be doing is reading. So yeah. Oh, baby girl, you're not gonna believe it. Do you see? Is that in focus for you? Okay. So that you could see how successful this trip has been. Not even a trip. Kind of a trip. Yeah, guys, I am reading. Also, the sun decided to come out. The sun said, hey, I'm just peeking in to make sure that your assessment of the weather is wrong. It's wrong. It's very wrong. Anyway, that's fine. That means I can just read outside a little bit. Responsibly put some sunscreen on and just let that sun kiss my skin. Ooh, kiss me, baby, one more time. Guys, I'm loving this book. I am deep into it. Right now, I am on page, 503. This right arm. Do you see? Look at that. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Look at that arm. I'm getting massive jacked.
The Stephen King workout plan.
Oleg, you can make noise, don't worry. Oleg is stretching off camera, and he's a little shy about it. But this is a multi-functional house, okay? I'm going to talk about books. Oleg is in shorts, vulnerable, white socks situation, and we love him for that. Anyway, we're here to talk about the book. Where did we leave off, first of all? We left off our character, Ebbing, let's just call him that, who goes by the name George Amberson. So he has assumed an alias. That is something that I forgot to mention when I was first talking about it, when I introduced the character and the book. But in this new world, he goes by Amberson, Mr. Amberson. Our main character has moved down to Texas to really investigate Lee Harvey Oswald's life. King is basically just laying down the foundation of George Amberson, checking out and assuming this kind of parallel to their life to make sure that he's surveying it, basically being like a CIA, FBI agent without being a CIA, FBI agent, basically gaining all this intel on the Oswalds to make sure that he is there to stop the JFK assassination. Now, while this is happening, he is kind of mourning the loss of the life that he had previously established in the town of Jody, Texas. This was basically like his home, away from his real home back in 2011, where the story originally takes place. He has found his community there. He becomes revered as a teacher and a drama teacher as well, which I cried at a lot of those parts. Very sweet, hometowny, small towny feels. He has also found love. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that. He has found love in a hopeless place. He has kind of had to remove himself from that and really make sure that he is achieving the mission that he has been sent out to do. The reason that he went back in time was to stop an assassination. So that's where I'm at. Horrible way to assess the situation, but I'm really trying not to give away parts of this. I'm just trying to make this as exciting and enticing for you as possible if you would want to pick it up yourself, because I am trying so hard to avoid spoilers. I did write down some notes because I wanted to talk about some stuff. I'm putting in the wrong passcode on my computer. Yeah, that's fine. What I'm finding to be so accessible and what makes, I think, Stephen King's writing so compulsive is that he gets to the point. I mean, that sounds a little bit not plausible because of the size of his book, but really, when I say that, I mean he references a lot of things. He kind of like keeps the momentum of the book going by saying, and that's what I thought was going to happen, or I could have never predicted, or he just mentions something, like there's a particular moment where this character mentions a broom. This woman mentions that in her prior relationship, oh, that's when my husband brought out the broom. And you think, okay, this is going to take so long for King to get to what the broom is about. But no. You give yourself about 10 to 15 pages and he tells you about the broom. He does his staggering of plot points and his staggering of little notes in such a way that keeps you curious without immediately telling you what it's about, but reveals it quick enough that you don't lose that momentum of reading power, which I think is what makes him so smart in his way that he tells a story. Whereas with like a lot of literary fiction that I read, or a lot of other types of storytelling, they allude to something and it takes so long for it to be uncovered, or you never really get that actual answer, but it's so satisfying to read it and just get the answer so fast. I really am appreciating that so much. Really just loving that. And I think that that is the key to what makes his writing so successful, is that he gives you those answers, whether or not you might like those answers. He gives you that time in your head, like, oh, maybe I can figure out what it's going to be. I thought the broom was going to be something totally different, but I won't get into what I thought that was. But he gives you that time to kind of try to put the plot together for yourself, and then he tells you what actually was constructed, and I love that. I love that. Also, little side tangent here. He mentions in this that somebody was sucking on an iced coffee. Now, this is just something totally random that stuck out to me. I would love to know if people from the South, I mean, obviously in like metropolitan areas, this is something that is available. But whenever I traveled out west, like Wyoming, and I was in the middle of nowhere, we would ask for an iced coffee and they would look at us like this. You want what? We'd say iced coffee, and they said, well, we can give you hot coffee with some ice in it. I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So I realized that iced coffee isn't a thing everywhere. So I'm asking, in rural Texas, if you live in rural Texas, is iced coffee a thing, say in a diner? I'm imagining in Austin, Houston, Dallas, I'm sure iced coffee is a thing. I'm just asking more in rural places if that's actually a thing, or if it would have been a thing in the 1950s. Anyway, side tangent. Hello. I also want to talk about, so Stephen King is known as the king of horror, right? Didn't even realize that I was going to use his last name there. He's known as the spooky dooky master. And this obviously is a little bit different than his normal narratives. This is a little bit different than the way that he is kind of known. I mean, It, The Shining, Misery, all of these, Pet Sematary, all of these books are horror. This has elements of horror in it, but it isn't very horror. Though, I'll be honest, I'll be reading this at 11:30 at night, and I do get a little spooked out. There's this reoccurring chant and this very ominous feeling throughout the entire book. This chant in particular is Jimlod, something that he first encounters when he enters into this world, and it keeps on reappearing in these really strange ways throughout the different lives that he's kind of assumed. It is freaking me out a little bit. So there's like these rumblings of horror throughout, and I would say that this just has a very ominous sort of feeling to it. There's enigmatic characters in this, and I think it has the elements of what make his writing so intriguing, but it's definitely much more of a story. But I haven't read any of his other horror books, so if you have, let me know if they're just horror from the bat or if they're bubbling throughout. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'll just shut up. I was reading this and I was thinking, oh my God, this would make such a good movie or a mini series, because everything of Stephen King's gets adapted into a movie. I just read The Long Walk, which I just found out about, is apparently being adapted into a movie or miniseries or something like that. I didn't even know this came out, but apparently in 2016 there was a whole miniseries with James Franco. So this book must have been published, and they must have immediately snatched up the rights to do it, which is crazy. I also want to know how many Stephen King adaptations there have been, because they sneak up on you. You don't even realize that they're Stephen King adaptations. But then you see the original story by Stephen King in the movie credits, and you say, wow, that guy does everything. Do you see that? Do you see that? That's right. That is right. I don't know if that clarifies anything for you, but it sure does for me. There's no more bookmark, okay? There is just a solidly completed book. Is there a bookmark? I thought I saw it for a second. I finished this. I finished the book. How many pages are we working with right now? 849 pages. I read it. It's done. I'm going to hold it because I deserve that. That is like a medal, okay? It is a medal. Yeah, it's done. I think it's taken me about 6 days to finish this, hence the comfort clothing that I'm wearing right now. I'm also at my parents', and I realized that I have a new skill of being able to read in the car. I read for about an hour and a half straight. I think it's something about the mystery of this book that allowed me to do that, something that I've never been able to do before. I get very queasy and vomity, even. Just this intervention coming over me of just magical powers that this book possesses. Not really, but it's on theme, right? It's very on theme. So where did we leave off? Amberson, Ebbing, whatever you want to call him. He's down in Texas. It's also, his story of time travel takes place over around 4 years. I know I mentioned the 1950s, but it ends in the 60s. I wanted to clarify that because as I was editing, I was saying to myself, this book is 11/22/63, and I keep on mentioning the 50s. People are going to think that I am also time traveling, but in the wrong direction. So I wanted to clarify that. He's down there for a while, okay? He's down there for a hot minute. The time is coming for him to do his duty of saving JFK. What happens? Does it happen? I'm not going to give any spoilers. No, I think that this book, it's all obviously looking at history, and I think it's kind of referencing that idea that we all have, like, if I could go back and do it again, or, oh man, if you could just kind of change the course of history, or when something catastrophic happens, oh, it never should have happened. And I think it's looking into what would happen hypothetically if we could go back and change that. A lot of this idea of the butterfly effect keeps on being brought up throughout this book. Every change, every subtle change provides consequences for something else. It's basically kind of what a butterfly effect is. If you alter something, then something else is going to be altered in turn. As this story keeps going on, it's so much more apparent that as Ebbing Amberson changes things, something else is altered. Something else changes for the future of somebody, or the past harmonizes. He keeps on talking about harmony, how all of these happen chance situations are very much in reality. There's always going to be synchrony in people or events because of something that he's changed. That sounds very convoluted, but this book is very convoluted. It's also kind of like touching onto the selfishness a little bit that you have to have, I think, if you're going to want to change something, how much of you goes into that story. How much of you would you sacrifice? Would you be able to sacrifice a relationship if it meant saving the world, or you think it's saving the world? I thought it was fun. I thought that it was a really good, again, storytelling. This didn't feel like it was almost 900 pages. I wanted this to keep going. I wanted to continue to live with these characters. And I think it's also really funny how this main character was just like a very average guy, but in the past, because he has so much information from the future, he's just a genius, you know? He's talking to the FBI and he's just rattling off all these facts that he knew. And the FBI is like, who sent you? Who sent you? If you went back in the future, what would you choose to change? I guess that's a question that I would pose you all. If you were to go back into the future, what would you choose to change? That's so difficult, right? And it also is interesting to me that the character of Ebbing and Amberson, he chose not to change any other historical events leading up to JFK. He kind of just picked that one and decided that that was the one that he was going to really go for, the one that was his true destiny. And he just more or less decided to live his life in a new light, in a fresh way. And I think that that is kind of human nature, right? We have all of these grandiose ideas, but at the end of the day, maybe love, family, and a home is what we would maybe change more than anything. So, great. This was so good. And I was also reading the acknowledgments, and Stephen King was talking about how he originally wanted to write this in 1972, but it was just so fresh, the actual JFK assassination, that he decided against it. So he's held on to this story for a long, long, long time, and he finally published it, and it was great. So that's my take on that. Anyway, you guys have been with me on it. Let me know what your favorite Stephen King is. Will you pick up a Stephen King? For somebody who reads literary fiction, as I've talked about a million times in this video, this I feel like was a great Stephen King book. Obviously, not like the most profound thing in the entire world, but I just liked that story. I thought it was good. I thought it was great storytelling. Come on now. Also, I want to say a huge thank you again to Berga phone cases for sponsoring today's video. Use my code ANNAX15 for 15% off your entire purchase, and that is in addition to their buy two get two phone case deal. Thank you so much again to Berga. Again, my code is ANNAX15. You guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in 1963. What?